And that's one of the big things. It's a lot of ways to watch the races, and they're very comfortable too. I know you've been out to a lot of them, but the commercials make things pretty appealing.
I'll be at another one this Saturday, because this Saturday at Oak Brook, we're going to do the autograph signing. Got the photographs all laid out. Jareth, Larry are going to be there. That photograph, it's cool. It's going to look really good. Yeah. So I'm excited about it. But yes, at Oak Brook from noon to 1.
And it's going to be good to have them out there. It's one of those things. I mean, it's very rare that you can find somebody that, hey, I had not only a Derby horse in there, but the Derby runner-up, a multiple graded stakes winner. Jareth Loveberry's having himself a good year. He's dealing coming back from an injury right now.
Well,
but,
that's what we scooped him.
Yeah.
We took advantage of his bad situation. I hate to say that out loud, but, you know, we'll get him out there in front of people and say, while you're hurt, come out. And I know he's really excited, and I think it's probably good for morale as well.
It starts to make it better, and that's what the thing is. So that's a good thing. So we're looking forward to that going on this weekend, but Emily will be out there as well. You can talk racing with them, get that autograph picture, and talk the Derby as well. So definitely worth checking out. Now, Emily, big news, and it's something that we haven't seen in the entire month of July. We're on the turf course, and it rained like crazy on July the 2nd. That was the start of all the rain, and now it's July 19th. We're finally back on the turf. It's been 3 weeks since we've run on the grass.
I hope I remember how to handicap the turf, because especially in this first race, because what a tricky one to start it off, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. Our turf course, both of our courses play really fair, but people love turf racing. I love turf racing, so it's great to be back on the grass. Yeah,
fast main track, firm on the turf course. I went out there and walked them Monday when they were mowing it, and it looked like it was in really good shape, and then I was out there again this morning as the roller was out there, and I'll tell you, it looks like it's been just unused. It looks very good. I'm going to run out there after we do the pre-race show today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the turf course maintenance, but it does look awesome, and we're kicking off the day on the turf course. I know you love when we start the day on the grass. You've told me, hey, race 1 on the turf. So we have it today. We might have it all 3 days. I know we put race 1 on the grass on Sunday. I think we have race 1 on the turf tomorrow as well. So mile and a 16th on the firm turf for the opener today. 17.5 maiden claimers. Olaf Hernandez rides the 7 Arm of Air. Emily, you said I'm looking at the board right now, and I may have to kind of change things up a little bit. I know there were multiple horses you looked at in race number 1. Your favorite at 2 to 1 is the 4 Monster on the Midway. It's a Chris Block turf runner, so you definitely have to figure that the horse is going to be in the mix.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's you kind of hit both those points there. As we start the analysis with the 4 Monster on the Midway, a horse that I actually have on top of the selections because he's very logical. He's coming off a better than looked effort. He's been pointed to the turf. He's been competitive at this level, but there are other horses in here that you can say similar for that fit almost as well. When you see a horse that, yes, they're logical, but it's a short price, there are some alternatives. It's one of those times where maybe you just have to get a little bit creative, get a little bit risky, but this is a gambling game, and there are other ways to go in here. I know both you and I gave a look to the 2 Manny Perez runners. I think you like Russian Standard, the 2 a little bit more, but Armavir maybe moves up on the turf, kind of one that maybe is finding himself, needs a little bit of value, which we're seeing in the 12 to 1, and then a bit of a surprise. I thought Marching Orders would fly under the radar in here, and he's currently sitting at 3 to 1, the second choice, could shift a little bit. And then the fastest horse in the race is probably number 5, Electric Charge. Yeah. And Little Steven's debut isn't that far off. So pretty much covering every single base in here with a horse that's capable.
And I'm gonna ask you about Marching Orders in a second. Russian Standard was the route that I went. It's just a class drop in here. I thought the race was okay, actually, in that first start out. It doesn't look like it on paper. The horse finished 6th out of a field of 7 and was kind of near the back. But the horse wasn't really backing out of it by any means either. So you're in for the tag. Manny Perez has had a really good meet. The Glockenberg horses have run well too. So Russian Standard is the route I went. But I want to find out your thought process here with the 6 Marching Orders, because a lot of people are seeing it that way so far. The horse has never run on the grass, but you're looking at 3 to 1 on the board right now. This is the second choice. So what are you seeing with Marching Orders?
I'm actually seeing a horse that wants to get on the turf.
Sure.
Been seeing that for a while, just watching him move, thinking this horse is going to be able to move up on the turf. He'll have that opportunity today. And then the similar reasons for Russian Standard. It's been show and run, just not quite on the level of the Maiden Special Weight Company. Same thing with Marching Orders, just not quite on that level. So he's getting both that class drop and the surface switch. And the early money is showing, because that horse is a tough one to get to just looking at him on paper.
Yeah, you pick up Chris Amy in the saddle as well, and he's had himself a very good meet too, and that horse is at 3 to 1. So it is. It's a competitive race, much more competitive, I think, than even it looks on paper and on the board there. But man, Electric Charge, that is a little bit surprising to me as well, to see 14 to 1.
And I think he is the fastest horse.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot of time until we get get to that point. So we'll see how things unfold there in the opener. All right, race number 2, allowance runners, goes 3/4 of a mile in the second. We're going to scratch the 5. That's T-Burns. Leaves you with a field of 5 to line up in race number 2. Jimmy DeVito's had himself a pretty good meet as well. He has a 3 plausible denial in here, and I know that's the horse that you were looking to a little bit in the spot.
Yeah, I think he fits really well in this race, just in terms of the class change coming onto this circuit. He's a sprinter, so getting back to one turn, and just with a favorable running style, has some early speed, has the ability to finish. There are others in here. The scratch of T-Burns takes out some of that speed, but Jim Watkins leaves in Faithful Ruler, who has plenty of speed, as well as time has come on the outside. So should be contentious, and even Blowtorch has that early speed as well. So I think he could get the trip. And when it's a field, especially now it's a field of 5, sometimes it's just kind of like, you know, take a stand, sink or swim. Maybe I'll have to move things around a little bit if I try to get creative in leg 1, but plausible denial is the one I wanted to on top.
And it's one of those that I looked at it very similarly, and I'm kind of hoping that actually Olaf Hernandez takes off the pace a little bit, because we know Faithful Ruler has speed. We know time has come, is very fast from the gate. And Blowtorch has at least shown the ability to rate a little bit. That last race at Prairie Meadows was a good, solid performance. Cody Rosine has had himself a very good meet, as well as Olaf Hernandez. It's the best distance for the horse, and I just think they have to sit back. If they go up there and they're 3 across, you might not see any of them. You could see Dash of the Cash rolling at late in the lane as well. But plausible denial definitely gets a good setup. I have that one second in this spot, but I did go to Blowtorch on top in race number 2. Third race on the card, 3/4 of a mile, 62.50 claimers, now winners of 3 races lifetime. Alex Bendezu aboard the 7. That's T after Ballet. From this field of 7 in here, again, you can go a lot of different ways in the spot. Santino's Fantasy is going to take a share of action, but you gave a look, I know, to a Watkins runner again, and Jim Watkins has had himself a very good meet, so I totally see where you're thinking here with Faithful King.
Yeah, I thought his races here earlier this season were actually good in those route races, not his ideal in terms of distance. Comes back to a sprint, coming off a win where this is going to be a step up in class, but I thought he just handled himself really professionally, so I don't mind the rising class. It could be a sign of confidence overall, and off the races from earlier this season could fit, so give a look to that one. I think he should be a bit of a price, because as you mentioned, there's some runners competitive race. There's a lot of ways to go. Santino's Fantasy is going to take a lot of money, and I'm not necessarily sold in that direction. It's a bit of a risk, because how well the Vandenberg runners have been running and stepping up in class, which is what this one's going to have to do. And then I give kind of a long shot look to Ironman Richie number 5, as well as number 2 Uncle Nick. A little bit of a reach just off their current form, but could make a case. I think it's a little chaos.
Two Eduardo Rodriguez horses in here, and they both stay in. Ironman Richie is the route that I went to in this spot. This horse, just the 1 win on the year, but it's hit the board in half of the 10 starts. Kind of runs those races from just off the pace each and every time out. But again, like you mentioned, there is some pace in here. Pinballer could even show a little bit of speed, although it's usually a little more route speed. But a couple along the inside likely to go. I think Ironman Richie will be close. We'll see what the finishing kick is there for that one. But again, it'll be an interesting race to see what the betting board is as well for race number 3. Fourth race on the card, 12-5 claimers. They go 1 mile and 70 yards. You get a field of 7 to line up in this spot. And you and I think we're thinking the same way in here. Casono Grotto is the horse that I have on top. I know you have this horse in the mix as well. I thought this was a race that kind of sneakily had a good amount of pace in here to chase, and that's kind of the reason I went to the 5.
Yeah, and you mentioned that because it is sneaky, because there's not a lot of horses in here that are necessarily front-running types, but they're horses that can go fast early, and so that should set up a scenario for Sono Grotto in terms of trip. And then another horse that could just be coming into this race the right way is going to make that second start of the form cycle, could be even overlooked off that July 4th sprint, as with the added ground, wasn't really asked for run, raced from off the pace, made a positive physical appearance, which I have noticed from his race in the past, kind of a good-looking horse. But I just think the added ground, the second off, moves him up in the right spot, and as you mentioned, the race shape as well.
And that's the thing, the move up is the key for me, because this was a horse that was facing much tougher company. Drop down for 8,000, you're like, okay, there's this plunge, and the horse just kind of ran a blah race that day. But you claim for 8, but at least that last out, they step back up. They're back in for the 12-5 again. So it's not like they're saying, we claimed it for 8, we're dropping for 5. They are trying to move back up. So I think the intention is good with this horse. We'll see if Sono Grotto's ready in that second start back off the layoff. But this is a race that, again, I think there's 3 or 4 that are forwardly placed. I think this one rates and just comes charging late. And like you mentioned at the start of the show, the track's played very evenly. So hopefully that's the case for Sono Grotto in the 4th. Fifth race, 5/8 of a mile on the firm turf course, $20,000 claimers in here. Just scratched the 7, 2 Worlds. Javier Simpson rides the 10, that is Asriel. Field of 10 in this spot. A lot of different ways to go. Again, there's a decent amount of speed in here. Upbeat Melody we know is fast. We know that Niles Channel is quick, but that's usually 2 turns. And then there's a horse like Ian Glass, who ran a pretty good race in that last out too, and I know that was the route that you were looking to a little bit in this race.
Yeah, as far as Ian Glass, I think it is worth noting in his last race, because he came up short in that race, finishing 4th, and it was a pretty short price that day, that he became really agitated when another horse acted up in the gate, and I think he lost his race at that point. Was just completely unsettled. I think we either mentioned it after the race or out on Twitter, and so I can give him a pass. And he was entered in one of the races that either came off the grass or was a day that canceled. And so I'm just willing to kind of put that race behind him. Wasn't his day, and then he comes back and he's very logical, live connections. And Real News, I think you have interest in this one as well. He's another one that he's been entered a couple times, and I haven't really liked the spot, but I think this spot is better for him, so I kind of moved him up.
Real News is the route I went to on top, and the thing is, you dig back to those races last August and September, those were turf sprints. Those were races where the horse got a beautiful setup sitting just behind the early pace, and then just kind of ended up running evenly the whole way around. Now, one of them was a race that Ian Glass comes out of back on September the 5th. But in here, Upbeat Melody is just going to go. Malpais from the inside might go. Grand Hideaway has a little bit of speed as well, so I'm just thinking Real News tucks in right behind, but isn't too far back in the spot.
He's got tactical speed.
And that's kind of the key for me. The horse has been good on the turf. I think Ian Glass is right there. Upbeat Melody is the only horse that scares me for the fact that if anybody runs them off their feet, that's the one horse that might be able to do so, but there's so many that could push things along. So see how things unfold, but I'm looking for a little bit of a price with Real News there in race number 5. 6th race on the card, Maidens. They go 6.5 furlongs in the spot. The last of our pick 3 wagers in race number 6. It's a field of 7 to line up. Gustavi is going to be a horse that is the heavy favorite. This was a horse that could have drawn in when a race was taken off the turf on Sunday, but was entered in this spot instead. I think it's the right move. You're going to be a short price, but the other one that I know you looked to a little bit was the 7. That's It's Magic, a horse that has a pretty good race under his belt at Ellis.
That was a very good race. Broke slow, made a move, was behind an open length, 1-5, Asmussen winner that day, and Ellis Park is tough to make up ground on, so any horse that ends up making up ground at any point, you can kind of upgrade them from that standpoint. As far as Gustavi, those races back at Oaklawn Park, very solid, very strong numbers. I'm actually kind of bummed they don't put this horse on the turf because, in my opinion, watching him at Oaklawn Park, I was like, this horse wants the grass. So makes a lot of sense in here, but I would like to see that surface switch. I would have upgraded him last time.
Right. It could be one of those that it turns out to be a 2-horse race with those two taking all the action. I think Angel Express has run a couple of decent races on the turf, so we'll see how that form transitions to the main track. The horse does have a pretty snappy 5/8 of a mile drill, though, here at Hawthorne. So Angel Express can't be completely dismissed either, but I think it probably comes down to Gustavi and It's Magic, and we'll just see what the prices are there in race number 6. 7th race on the card, $50,000 optional claim in Allowance Company. They go 1 mile and 70 yards in race number 7. We're going to scratch the 7. That's Lycan, but Ingrid Mason had 2 entered in here, so Notary stays in. That's the route that I went, but Buck Moon is a horse that I'll tell you has been pretty consistent throughout the course of the years as well, and that's a horse that should take some action as well.
Yeah, I went that same 2 direction with Notary and Buck Moon. I mean, Buck Moon is expected to get pace pressure, but he just might be quick enough to be able to take that pace pressure and to hold late, and if so, he could certainly win this race. Now, if that pace pressure does get to him, Notary's got first run. He's going to be able to pick up the pieces. He's got first run on some of the closing types in here. Millard Smile, Silver Quarters should be able to get the jump on them. So I kind of went that direction. If there is a best of the speed scenario, Buck Moon's the horse. Gets to him late, Notary's going to be in that first run. Yeah,
and that's the thing that I'm just curious to see kind of how things unfold. Does Treasury go? Does Empire Builder go? Or does Buck Moon kind of scamper away? But all 3 of those could go. So I am going to look to Notary in here. Ingrid Mason horses have been starting to run pretty well over the course of the last couple of weeks too. So that's the route I'll go in the 7th. Then in the finale, 15 non-2 company in the last. This is a tough race. 1 mile on the firm turf course. Jackpot I-5 wager in that carryover, almost $150,000. Scratch the 1, Arrow Strike. Scratch the 5, Rough Justice, and the 2 MTOs. So it leaves you with a field of 9 in this spot, and you can go so many different ways. I know you gave a little look to Strike Price, but I know you covered Storm's Reflection, Kingsbury Attack, Class of 67. Who do you want to start out with here in the last?
Well, I tried to kind of strike for a price, quite literally, because I think he'll be the best price of Storm's Reflection and Kingsbury Attack, who kind of seem a little bit more logical. Strike Price is one that I just think he's kind of a different horse on the turf. We've seen him run those good races and could get back to that top effort in here. He had trouble on May 18th, had that outside post on June 7th, another trouble trip on June 25th. So I just think he's going to be the better price of those three. With Storm's Reflection and Kingsbury Tack, certainly capable. Class of 67 is one that's, I've noted that he's a long shot to win this race, but should step up off his current form, the return of the turf. That might be enough just in terms of getting that kind of long shot to spice things up underneath. Lawmaker, number 8, is another one that's worth a mention because he never had a chance last out.
Right.
He was so slow out of the gate, chased behind the horses. He actually showed run, but his race was over right from the start. Gets back to the turf and just can get back to a better effort.
Yeah, and he ran a good race on the turf and victory in that start too back. Kingsbury Attack was the route that I went to in this spot. It's so hard in races like this because you have a lot of horses that have had a lot of opportunities and only have that one win. Strike Price is 1 for 16, Storm's Reflection 1 for 22, Kingsbury Attack 1 for 18. But somebody has to win, and that's the thing with these 15 on 2. But usually what it kind of means in a race like this is you could have 4 or 5 within a length or 2 of each other inside the final 16. So makes for an interesting race. It's definitely a race you want to watch the board, see what kind of action, because you're going to catch some value with some horses in there, but you can go a lot of different routes.
And since you mentioned that price, we do have the high 5 carryover.
We do have the high 5 carryover, $148,538. You know what else we have? We have an online contest that's going on. And yes, it started last weekend, but you can still sign up. So there is still time to get in on the Coast to Coast Challenge. You want to make sure you sign up. You go to the website, hawthorneracecourse.com, and Emily is picking a couple of horses over the course of the weekend cards. And for those that jump in, even if they miss the first day, there's a lot of people that just didn't get any money the first day anyway. So there's time to definitely build that bankroll.
Yeah, and you can still, tomorrow's the last day to get in, but there's still plenty of time. It's free. Sign up, get involved, take some shots, and as you mentioned, there's probably a lot of people with zeros that are going in, so you're not giving up too much of an edge, and maybe you're so good of a player that you need to give everybody else a head start, and then you'll catch them anyway, so no big deal.
Everybody's going to have those days where they have zero, so there's a lot of time to make it up. We want 1,500 entries in there because we want Dakota to deliver us pizza and beverages. So get those entries in for the contest. All right, we're going to change things up a little bit here today. We're 23 minutes to post for the opener, but I want to run down to the turf course and take a look at that, so we're going to take a little bit of a break. Peter will run through the changes, then Emily will come back and take a look at race number 1. Good luck.